Om Yam Brahma Varnendra Rudramarutaha Stanbanti Devoy Vedai Sangapada Kramu Upanishadoi Gyantiyam Samagaha Dhyan Vashtita Tatbhutena Manasya Pashantiyam Yogino Yashantam Navidduhu Sura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Our eternal salutations to that one who is the truth of life and existence, and whom the saints and sages call by different names. Our eternal salutations to that one whose glories are sung in the various scriptures and hymns of the different religious traditions of the world, but whose infinite and undying grandeur no mortal mind can comprehend. Our eternal salutations to that one upon whom the devotees meditate in the shrine of their hearts, realizing an ineffable presence in our deepest contemplations. May he prompt our minds toward the path of truth and righteousness. May she reveal herself into our souls and dispel the gloom of death, fear, doubt, and darkness. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sham no Mitraha Sham Varunaha Sham no Bhavadvaryama Sham no Indra Brihaspatihi Sham no Vishnu Rukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayu Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishami Ritam Vadishami Satyam Vadishami Tanmam Avatu Tadvaktaram avatu, avatu mam, avatu vaktaram. Om Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. Eternal salutations to all beings. Salutations to the humans. Salutations to the ancestors. Salutations to the celestials. Salutations to the gods and goddesses. Salutations to Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the Trinity, God with form. And salutations to the formless Brahman. Thou art what is real, what is beneficial, and what is true. Therefore protect us, protect our teachers, protect Guru, Dharma, and Sangha forevermore. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karva Vahai Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidvesho Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman, the reality, protect us. May Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, or with the teachings. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us. May peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. Vedanta and Tantra are two great rivers flowing simultaneously throughout time, merging and mingling their waters into each other, and then moving apart, coming together again, and they're fed by other great streams like Samkhya Yoga of Lord Kapila with its 24 cosmic principles. We've studied that, 5 senses, 5 elements, 5 tanmatras, fourfold mind, and so forth. Also fed by the stream of yoga, that is the authentic Patanjali's yoga, which is 8-limbed. Yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, the 8-limbed yoga. It's also fed by the Kundalini yoga system with its 7 chakras. It's 3 below, and it's heart chakra, and it's 3 above, which all relate to the ascension of consciousness, the refinement of awareness as far as the human being is concerned. And many, many great seers and sages, saviors, have poured their life force into these great systems so that they could come forth in a pure form and long-lived reach into the present time in the form of great scriptures like the Upanishads, the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutras, Adhyatma Ramayana, Avadhuta Gita, Ashtavakra Samhita. It is mainly the non-dual scriptures that we go to when we want out of fundamentalism, when it's not the diet that's satisfying us, when we want beyond dualism, which is all well and good with its richness of faith and devotion. But when we want to go to the Father through the Son, then we come to this Advaita Vedanta, and we find it exemplified very well in the combination of Upasana Jnana and Tattva Jnana. That is basically Vedanta and Tantra. Vedanta has its accent mostly in the non-dual, Advaita it's called. I and my Father are one type of philosophy. And so that great tradition, as early on as the ancient Vedicists, before the Upanishads came forth with their non-dual teachings, we go to find all manner of comprehension as far as religion and philosophy are concerned. But when you add Tantra as a separate river flowing into that and intermingling its waters, as I said, then you have this whole system of deities, gods and goddesses, mantras, that is, seed syllables and profound sayings that get merged in the waters of the Vedic non-dualism, and all of a sudden you find the answers for God with form and God beyond form, as Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, our guru, used to sing, and used to say both. He used to sing songs about it as well as say it in transmission, that this great system of deities with their mantras must be meditated upon in the shrine of the heart. And also, then one should meditate equally on the formless reality. That's why I just chanted Om Shamno Vishnu Rurukramate Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayu. That is, salutations to Vishnu, God with form, salutations to the formless Brahman too. So, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, God is with form, God is beyond form, and God is beyond form and formlessness as well. So any concept the human mind can construct of it, which at this level of religion and philosophy are helpful concepts, they're not detrimental concepts. Detrimental concepts are delusion and illusion and half-truths and mixed truths and faults. But when you get into the higher level of refined human awareness, that is, we've been calling it wisdom principle or wisdom particle, the jnana matra, then it's a matter of meditating deeply on these verities within us, these kingdoms of heaven within us, if you want to put it that way, and finding there a whole host of divine forms back within us, not out in space. You can't, nobody looks up anymore and says, please help me, God, I hope. That's all superstition that should have died a long time ago. Kingdoms of heaven are within you. You should be looking within you to find the answers to those questions. Questions which should be of a philosophical and religious nature, and hopefully beyond the level of your emotions, which have been impeding you so much, and beyond the level of passions like lust, anger, greed, envy, jealousy, pride, fear, grief, pride of caste, pride of lineage, delusion. What's called the 6 passions and the 8 fetters in our tradition. Enough brooding upon all of that, enough worry about all that, that only increases the curtain of nescience. That is the cloud of unknowing, the Buddhists call it. And so we can't see through it anymore, not only in this lifetime, but from birth to death and death to birth. In those bardo states, you see, which are beyond the bardos of living and the bardos of being born, the bardos of dying, What happens in between that? When my mind goes into that formless state, which is similar to deep sleep tonight, where no forms are present in it anymore. Divine Mother there, underlying all, informing me of my formless nature. See, that's why the Mother Scriptures are so beautiful when they sing about it. See, they have these ways of penetrating straight to the matter, like in the Chandi. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Nidarupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Chaya Rupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Namo Namaha. Why Nidra? Why Chaya? Why Buddhi? O Mother, you exist in the hearts and minds of all beings as Nidra, sleep, deep sleep. O Divine Mother of the Universe, you exist in the hearts and minds of all beings as Chaya, shadow play. O Divine Mother of the Universe, you exist in the hearts of all beings as Buddhi, intelligence. Let's see what she's saying in the great scripture, Mother Scripture of the world. You have fallen asleep to your true nature. And now you're engaged in shadow play, Chaya. So awaken your intelligence, Buddhi. There's a Triputi for you to meditate upon. Remember, I've been going on about waking, dreaming and deep sleep, and gross body, subtle body, and causal body. AUM of Om, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, God with form that we just chanted about. Now it's time to meditate upon those and put them together with the wisdom principles. Not leave everything disconnected anymore, but to bring them together into a nice integration. What is that word? Yoga. It doesn't mean getting into oneness, it means the intrinsic oneness of everything. Everything's already one. It's you that have scattered it, spread it apart, spread it around in an infinite multiple expression of universes. Now a time for you to meditate upon that one divine being which exists inside of you. So in order to do that, all the saints and seers call it formless. So to understand your waking, dreaming, and deep sleep state also means you understand your birth, your life, and your death state, right? All of those also have to be integrated. Another great Triputi to meditate upon. What a novel idea. Let's meditate on our own life. Instead of just letting it rush past us, you see, in a whirl, in a sweep. I mean, the kind of sweep that you probably want to meditate upon is more like what is described in some of these beautiful songs that are such a beautiful part of our traditions, like when they sing in Bengal. Sharada Ramakrishna Name Bande Ke Chere Bai Sharada Ramakrishna Name Bande Ke Chere Bai Vishvabu Bande She Gele Aha Boli Hari Jai Sharada Ramakrishna Name Bande Ke Chere Bai. In other words, oh precious brothers and sisters, can you hear that distant sound sweeping towards us? Like the approach of a great flood, the powerful names of Sharad and Ramakrishna are storming the boundaries of relative existence. How's that for an opening to your song? How's that for lyrics? See? The drums beating along with it, you see, and everyone's singing. Sharada Ramakrishna Name Bande Keche Rebai. That gets the old Kundalini awakened, doesn't it? Doesn't Mother come up when she hears songs like that? Is she going to fall for your false romantic notions and you say, come on, baby, ooh? That's not going to attract the Divine Mother of the Universe. She doesn't accept cheap bribes. So waken up your Kundalini with these very powerful sentiments, these truth sentiments that are beyond mere petty emotions and beyond your engaging in birth, life, and death in ignorance and delusion. Go to a teaching like we finished up last week. This is our third, fourth class, is it, in Vedanta and Tantra, and there's one more next week to finish it off. And live streamed for those of us who are joining us. Thanks to Advaita Academy providing us with the equipment to do so. We thank them. So, if you go to a teaching where we left off last week, it's more tantric, isn't it? We're going back and forth sort of between the Vedic teachings and then the tantric teachings. Teachings like the four treasures and the six jewels we had. Viveka, Vairagya, Samo, Dhammo, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana, and Shraddha, and Mumukshutvam, desire for liberation, how you need inner peace, self-control, and that gives you contentment, and then you forbear all ills of life, and that brings about the ability to concentrate, and that brings about faith. If anyone walks up to you on the street and you're a Vedantist or a Tantricist and they say, what's your faith? You say, well, I first have to discriminate between the real and the unreal. I have to separate the wheat from the chaff, Mr. Christian. Chris? I just have to separate the wheat from the chaff so that I know what to eat and what not to eat, what to imbibe. I'm then blessing my food, because eating food that isn't blessed is poison. But if I bless the food, it's nectar. So I intake that food, and I immediately feel inner peace and self-control, Samo and Dhammo. And after that, I get some contentment. And after that, I learn how to forbear. Then I can concentrate. And if I can concentrate, I can have faith. My faith is based on all that, sir. I know my faith inside out. It's rock solid. Shouldn't faith be a rock? Isn't that what is said? And after that, maybe I'll get a sincere desire for freedom. All of that is necessary in order for me to have my first taste of freedom. Otherwise, freedom comes and goes. It's a mere word, like love, in the human context. Where's the real freedom? Where's the real love? Where's the true devotion? It's based on sincere discrimination and detachment. And we looked at the 7 qualifications of a Tantric aspirant in one of our classes. In fact, I think it was last week. 7 qualifications of a Tantric aspirant. He had to be Dvaita-hina, and he had to be leaning towards non-dualism. Had to be intelligence, daksha, have some awakened intelligence. So you've been sleeping, nidra. Chaya, you've been playing with shadows. Your life is full of shadow play. Empty. So awaken your buddhi, intelligence, see, and then live a divine life. At least live a dharmic life. Divine life can come after that. So in order to do that, get out of the adharma. Those are all Buddhist terms, you see. They're Sanskrit terms that everyone uses, but they've been brought out in the Buddhist context. So we looked at the Bardo states last week, didn't we? We had those, the whole chart down, how a person dies consciously. The first time in a series of births, how he passes from the body consciously. Instead of in fear or in dread, or as the Rinpoche says here, those lacking training may panic here. He says, oh, I'm dying. no, you're not dying, you're just transitioning. Your soul is moving from one state to another. What else would it be doing if it's an eternal soul? And everyone from Lord Copula up to Swami Vivekananda in present time has said so. Do I have to fill in the gaps? Copula, Buddha, Christ, Patanjali, Vedavyasa, Shankara, Chaitanya. How many, throw Moses and Muhammad in there for the Judeo-Christians, you see, how many great souls do we have to cite who have broadcast these truths, made them widespread through various religious traditions until we finally believe them. And what to speak of belief, move towards faith. Because beyond mere belief is faith. Belief can be shaken, but faith can't. So, at the time of passing, if you've studied, he says here, if you practice hard enough, you can gain enlightenment in this life. Gain enlightenment in this very life. And that is best, he says. But if your practice in this life is guided by a spiritual teacher, then you can experience the clear light at the time of death and recognize the nature of mind. The nature of mind. I would say he's referring to Buddha mind, or what we would call pure mind, or original mind. That's God's mind. That's sattvic. That's pure. See? But the inference is also towards mundane mind, confused mind, fragmented mind, because that's the option. That's the alternative if you don't create a pure mind inside of yourself in this very lifetime, so that you know birth and death to be illusory, ultimately illusory, because the lowest of all hells that you can fall into, and we're not calling hell a location in space and time in our tradition, is the fear of death. You can't get any lower than that. And that's where all other imbecilities of the mind come forth, from beliefs like that. So you must see the soul transitioning through hundreds and thousands of subtle nerves. This human being is just a composite. You say, well, it's very hard to see divinity in mankind, isn't it? But that's the ideal. God, man is just God walking around on two legs, Vivekananda said. And there is no other God in the universe, in this universe. No other God. That's it. But what you see, you get, you see. So if we want to awaken from shadow play and live in the truth of our refined intellect, then we begin to see the divine manifesting through the human, man and woman. And in that case, then we can feel right and contented about our realization that God is here in the human body. But if we want to prove it to ourselves, that is, we realize ourselves first, and then we look out and see that same Atman in everyone else, that same Buddha nature in everyone else, then why not look into a system like Tantra, see, which talks about the human body in terms of hundreds and thousands of nerves that if you were to somehow perform that queer experiment of tying them all together, they would stretch from here to New York. So that's a lot of distance in one human body. But what they're overlooking when they're trying to impress you with such a fact in medical science is the hundreds and thousands of nerves that exist in each one of those physical nerves. Mm-hmm. These are called nadis. They're called nadis. And they flow throughout the whole system, throughout the 7 worlds, throughout the 7 chakras. They're even there in Maya, see, in deluded people, in an unawakened state. And so they flow everywhere throughout the 7 worlds, and throughout the marvelous human body in the 3 streams, the Sushumna, the Ida, and the Pingala. See, 3 great nerve currents. And those are connected to many more nerves. So if you had the eyes to see in, say, the 3rd eye, if your eye be single, you shall know the truth, you could look in upon yourself and see this whole current of nerve networks, and when you saw it, you'd see souls passing from the physical body and moving along multiple concourses. It's like a huge airport. See, people taking off in aerial cars, in vehicles, subtle vehicles, going every which way. Some of them are taking vacations. Some of them are going to hell, see, in their own mind. Some of them are going to heaven in their own mind, and that's not a good thing either. You want to go far beyond heaven. Some of them are going right up the elevator, you see, to the third eye, to where their eye is single, where you shall know the truth, and to the crown chakra, by hundreds and thousands of nerve passageways. That's what you would see if you could see, as Christ said, my mansion, my Father's mansion with its many chambers. That's what he's talking about. He's just making up some sort of a esoteric saying to befuddle you, or is he something based on his own vision, dwelling within him? So that's what the Rinpoche, or the Tulku, or the Swami, or the Yogi, or the Avadhuta, or any other sage or saint or seer of religious traditions knows about the movement, the apparent movement of this apparently individualized soul, its transmigration process. So we ended with that. We went through all these various 7-day period, then the 14-day period, and then the 28-day period, according to this system of Tibetan Buddhism, in which the soul gave up earth, gave up water, gave up fire, gave up air, and gave up ether. It has had a long-standing relationship and, hopefully not, but most likely, attachment to the 5 elements. It may be never said to itself in the 80 or 90 years that it lived, if it was so fortunate to do so, I am not the 5 elements. I am not the body made of 5 elements. I am not the objects made of a combination of the 5 elements. Only parents who were illumined told that to their children. In India, in Tibet for the past 700 years, so forth. So we have to go to systems like that where people grew up in the recognition of that kind of truth. They were raised on that. That was their diet, their spiritual, their religious, and their philosophical diet. And so it became ingrained in them. So if you were an Indian or Tibetan person and you went to Europe and you happened to end up on Freud or Jung's therapy table, you could tell them, you're thinking in a one lifetime scenario. You're not going to make any sense out of life that way. My teachers have taught me for hundreds of years that the soul passes through many lifetimes in its shadow play, see, in its chaya frame of mind. It's playing with machinations of its own mind. So that's long ago become established in me. I accepted that as the truth, the relative truth anyway, and that's where I exist now, in that understanding. So I don't have any problem if anyone comes up and asks me, where do souls go after they die? I say that's not even a philosophical question anymore. That's simply put. They go to the kingdoms of heaven within them in several subdivisions. You can locate them there if you meditate and open up those centers. That's what dreams are, but dreams are rather foggy because you haven't brought the light of understanding into your dreams yet. You haven't mastered your dreams. What to speak of mastering your deep sleep state, where everything is held in abeyance. All form is back in your deep sleep state in a formless sense. And it just comes out again when it manifests, and it just demanifests itself and retracts and goes back. And the in and out of it all is what Buddha wanted to transcend. So he sat under the Bo tree and got rid of cycles of coming and going. Until in present time you have Swami Vivekananda, who said, coming and going is all nonsense. Where's the time when the soul comes, when all of time is in the soul? Where's the space into which the soul is born when all of space is in the soul? See, he tries to get us to to realize that God's not in the world is in God. So that shift of consciousness all of a sudden reveals everything within us. And we become very assured, very confident of that fact. And then we can really get on to a dharmic life. And we live our first dharmic life. And in our first dharmic life, we can get rid of these foggy perceptions, and we can make sure we don't become attached to the 5 elements, to the physical bodies, to relationships with other physical bodies, to physical bodies floating in space, looking out all the time and never in. Because if we looked in, we'd find out what the out means. Since we haven't looked in, we don't know what the outer really means, do we? We look into an object, we take a splinter of it, we look at it under an electron microscope, we see it's made of vibrating particles changing at a billionth of a second, and we can't come to the conclusion that it's empty, that Buddha concluded 550 BC, that all of this is empty, that I can't build my house here, Christ said, can't build it on shifting sand. Why can't we come to that conclusion and renounce the world of name and form completely? Don't need to be a monk to do that. Monks have to do it. Those living in the world as householders, they must do it. See? Because you can't satisfy yourself on the cotton candy diet. On things that you can't satisfy yourself on things that don't really exist, that are masquerading themselves to you as real objects, but are really just vibrating particles. They can't fulfill you, they get stolen, you get bored with them, they get destroyed. How many ways can we count that the object is not going to fulfill us or satisfy us? So we can't give it up and live in our true nature, which is peaceful, which is blissful, which is infinite, not finite. So at some point, the soul learns that in a certain lifetime, and at the time of that death, whether he's studied the scriptures and mastered them himself, or whether he has to have his teacher next to his bed, even if that does not happen, there is a possibility to do so after death, the Rinpoche says. There are practices one can do at the time of death. A spiritual master can also introduce the dying person to the bardo in such a way that he or she will recognize the clear light when it occurs. My own opinion on the matter is that everyone, from the most high to the most low, sees the light at the time of their death. It's just a matter of whether they can move there, merge into it. Doesn't matter how many sins or murders or anything you've committed, you'll see that light, because none of that matters down on earth. Only what matters is the truth. That's why Christ didn't go around condemning people for their sins. So just go and sin no more. Because sin will put you into a state of suffering, which is induced by, guess who? The devil? No, the devil's in Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Smith, you see. It's the devil in you that's doing all that, so give it up. You are never in Maya. It is Maya that's in you. So give it up, quick. Spit it out. So when the soul realizes this, then takes charge of its own destiny. There is no God other than the soul, the one soul, the Atman, the Buddha nature, Tathagata Pragyaparam, pure consciousness, timeless deathless awareness, Kaivalya, Samadhi, Nirvana, Mukti, Moksha. Everywhere you look in different systems and different traditions, they say it to you. They even exhibit it for you when they come into a body. That's what you're looking at when you're looking at a seer, living intelligence, manifested enlightenment. What else would you see there? And if your eyes are covered over with, if you pulled the wool over your own eyes, then you won't see that there in the teacher. You'll make excuses for yourself. So at that time when a person can give up, can dissolve earth into water, get over weakness and foggy perception, this is at the moment of passing. And when they can dissolve water into fire next, and get over the dryness of mouth and eyes, and the experiences that become like mirages and moving images at the time of death, like a candle in a windy place instead of a candle in a windless place, you're falling in and out. You say, I am dying, I am dying. But the person who got the teachings, the Dharmic teachings in life, does not say that. It says, I'm transitioning. What is next for me to see with my inner eye? If my inner eye isn't open yet, what about my subtle senses? Maybe they'll be open, you see. It's not just like I can jump from the lowest chakra to the highest chakra like that. I must have realized that I had 5 gross senses, right? Smelling, seeing, hearing, touching, tasting. But don't you have those same senses in a dream tonight? When you set down your gross senses, aren't you seeing and tasting and touching and smelling in a dream? So don't you have subtle senses? What if those were sharpened? You might be able to see some of these worlds, these heavens, these lower heavens, we would call it, these bardo states. So you might be able to actually see them at the time of your death. And then you can move towards them. The Rinpoche tells you, as he's speaking to your already dead body, he's speaking to your subtle senses. The wife is weeping and, my husband's died. You know, the Rinpoche says, and she says to him, why are you talking to him? He's a dead body there. I'm talking to him because he has subtle senses. He's still hovering around the body. Don't you feel him? So now I can direct him. It's a good time because he might get attached to another body. So don't go towards that pig's body. Don't go towards that vulture's body that you see. Don't go towards that demon's body that's haunting you. Or that woman's body or that male body. See the light in the distance? That's Buddha nature. Go to that. See if you can go to that. Move towards that. Wait it out, because if you panic, it'll disappear, just like a dream does. So it is important to realize that only the elements are changing and dissolving, not your awareness. That's why you meditated on your awareness during your lifetime, because it's stationary. It's stable. It doesn't move. And it doesn't think either. Thinking was an overlay you put over your consciousness due to the dual mind. You know, thinking is all dual, isn't it? Oh, I'm virtuous. Oh, I'm viceful. I'm good. I'm bad. I have pleasure. Now I have pain. I was fat last year. Now I'm thin again. See, it's all dualities of overlays. That's the mind. That's the ordinary mind. What you're looking for is the original mind. And that's in there too, as the foundation of everything. Blissful, peaceful, ever content. So stabilize around that. See, so better if you had learned that before the time comes to die. See, well, studied it in this lifetime and mastered it to a degree. Then, if that's not good enough, then if you haven't done that, then a teacher, if you're fortunate, can come to your bedside and guide you like that. And so remind you, but don't worry, it's just the elements that are dissolving. And along with it is also your habit of concentrating on the elements, because you've been doing that for the last 70 or 80 years. You've been living in the land of the elements. In fact, it's somewhat natural that it would be difficult to let go of them, you see. If you talk about a Dalai Lama or someone who's lived 14 lifetimes of conscious deaths, then yeah, to them it's like old habit. It's not old habit like attachment, it's the old habit of detachment. Oh, it's all that again. I have to pass from the body again. And I'll go to my Buddha nature. No problem. That's all that exists. If you have known the Atman for the only reality, then what is it that vexes you at the time of death? If you have not known the Atman, or Buddha nature as the only reality, then every demon possible in your mind can come forward. Why haven't you put them to death with the sword of wisdom while you were alive? That's what the waking state is for. That's what the life is for. Ramakrishna says there's only one purpose to life, and that's to realize your divine nature. Realize God. If you can do it here, you can do it anywhere. So here's your test. That's why you came into the body. All these other things were afterthoughts, were mistakes, were errors, were primal errors, were overlays, were false superimpositions, were bad turns I took on my path, were interruptions, were procrastinations. Am I getting closer to home now? Is the procrastination? Everyone complains about it. So let's get to it. Let's cut to the chase, as they say, and know the truth, and the truth shall set us free. And that's why we're here. No other reason than that. Everything else will fall into harmony, will fall into abeyance, perfectly in order, when we realize the truth. Nothing will be able to waylay us. We will crush the stars to atoms. We will unhinge the universe. Don't you know who we are? We are the children of God. Are you a child of God? Or are you a devil? Or are you a child of the earth? Oh, I'm an earth child. No. You were never an earth child. Christ said, birds have nests and foxes have holes. Birds have nests and foxes have holes, but you don't have any place here. How much more clear could he have been? Your nature is divine. Your nature is non-dual. And that dual mind that came in and messed it up was your mistake, you see. That's a puppy. Needs to be trained. Or it'll, mess up the house. Train it, quick, while you can. Hopefully before this happens. It's going to be more difficult to do it as you give up the 5 elements at death. But if you've already done that, and you know what I'm saying here? Patanjali, the father of yoga, wanted you to do what? I'll give you the key word, valambana. He wanted you to meditate on the supports for meditation. Valambana is called earth, water, fire, air, and ether. You were supposed to meditate on them. What were you supposed to do with them? Connect them to earth to smell, water to taste, fire to sight, air to touch, and ether to hearing. Hearing is the most subtle sense in my tradition, like the sound of Om. So you connected them. Modern man is disconnected from them. That's why he's not down with nature anymore. He wants to master it and use it for his pleasure. And in the meantime, what's he doing to it? So the father of yoga says, hands off. Meditate on it within. Doesn't it sound like if you did that, then when you encountered them in your dying state, in that bardo that you're passing from life to death, that you would not have any problem giving them up because you've already done it? Hopefully done it many lifetimes. So all of these systems, they're not contrary to one another. Buddhism is just Vedanta in another form. Samkhya, Tantra, Kundalini, Yoga, all of those things are, you must look at them all, you see. I mean, if you have a nice table setting, I was writing an email to a person today who asked me the question about the missing element of prana, life force. Man does not live by bread alone. We don't know anything about that subtle energy. We only know electric and kinetic and our moods and so forth. But we don't know anything about the prana that's carrying our soul away from the body after death and what's bringing it back in the form of a fetus. We think that sperm and ovum got together in the mother's womb and created the baby, but we don't know about the prana that took the soul in and out of the fetus. We don't know anything about that. They know about that. So I was writing in an email today to somebody and said, well, just imagine you had a huge feast happening and you had this dinner setting and you found out that you didn't have enough certain kinds of spoons, you see. So you had to go to an old dinner setting and borrow some out of that, you see, to make all the table whole. Everyone has a soup spoon now, you see. So that's what it's like to go to other philosophies and fill in the gaps. If one philosophy doesn't quite tell you about prana, then go to one that does. And then you'll fill in the gap. Is it a foreign religion I'm going to? No. Strike that expression from your vocabulary. There's no such thing as a foreign religion. All religion is indigenous to your soul. That is your property. Don't let anyone take it away from you. The Muslims, the Christians, the Hindus. Oh, they sing about it in beautiful songs. When he sings this beautiful Muslim Hindu, if you want to call him that. Classical song of India, which somebody put together, and this one of the sentiments is churches, temples, Kaaba, ashramas, if you want to put them in, like the one we're in right now. They're all places of worship that you have fashioned, and you causing everyone to bow down inside of them. You, the Lord, the non-dual reality. You have become the worshipper, the act of worship, and the place of worship. Nothing exists but thee. That's how he put it. He wanted to put it in some sort of powerful way so that it would strike us and make an impression there. Because God knows we've got enough impressions about mundane life, about bad habits, about heavens, earths, and hells, about evolution, about the illusion of death, thinking it to be real, about the object, thinking it can satisfy us. Those are all impressions we could just as well do without if we want to know the truth. But what about a sentiment like that? What about a truth like that? All these places in different religions, you fashioned them all, and you're causing everyone to bow down inside of them. Nothing exists but you. That's a non-dual realization. That's I and my Father are one. Speak. See? So, this tussle we're having with the problem of death, it's easily done away with by studying your philosophy, especially your non-dual scriptures, the ones I mentioned at the beginning of this class. Go to them. They're the wisdom traditions. And wisdom is the only thing that will destroy ignorance. And then you'll know what love is, and you'll be able to write a song like that, or express truth in that way. Only then. Otherwise, you don't want to, hands off, see. I shouldn't share Maya with other people. You should only share the truth with people. You call up your neighbor, got some nice Maya over here, it's very tasty. Why don't you come over and I'll share it with you, you see. Well, people are doing that constantly. But who calls you up and says, I've realized the truth? Churches, temples, Kaabas, the Lord is making everyone bow down there. He's the place of worship, He's the worshipper, and He's the act of worship, all in one. I want to share this with you, come on over. Oh, and by the way, I have a soup spoon for you. I found my dinner setting. So this is what Tibetan Buddhism has gotten from India. Tibet is not India. This is what Tibetan Buddhism got from India. Where is it? Here. Let's see. The Mahamudra teaching was revealed to the Mahasiddha Tilopa by the Venerable Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, and was then transmitted to Naropa, Marpa, and Milarepa in a sacred lineage succession through which it reached Tibet. So out of India, in the form of these great yogis, somebody went there from Tibet, probably Marpa, and learned it and took it back over the Himalayas and taught it to Milarepa. And then, did I say 700 earlier? I think I made a mistake. The last 1400 years, Tibet has been learning. They put together this yoga with the Tantra, see, and with Buddhism. They put it all together. And so now you have this beautiful mix, wonderful hybrid of Tantric Buddhism, basically, with the yogic element alive and well in it. Did they call the other a foreign religion? Then it couldn't have turned into such a beautiful admixture that has helped so many thousands of souls. And where are souls going now if they want teachings? When they're born, they're going to India and Tibet. Have you seen any here? Precious few. Don't look at me. I'm just a pillowcase. So if you have a great teaching like that and teachers who are coming over, like the Swamis, like the Tulkus, like the Rinpoches, like the Sheikhs from the Muslim tradition, then you have somebody who is akamai. You know that word in Hawaii, right? Akamai means in the know. They have something now akamai about these kingdoms of heaven within. They also know about the birth, life, and death process and how it's just a transition, because Buddha's whole teaching is practically based on that, getting out from the cycles of samsara. Getting out from the cycles of samsara. I brought you a little poem by Milarepa. See, he says, "My first experience in samsara seemed very pleasant and delightful. Later, I learned about its lessons. In the end, I found it a demonic prison. These are my thoughts and feelings about samsara, so I made up my mind to renounce it. At first, samsara appears to be one's friend. She is like a smiling angel. Later, she turns into a fierce and exasperated woman. In the end, a demoness is she. These are my thoughts and feelings about companions in samsara, so I made up my mind to renounce samsaric friendship. At first, samsara seems to be a sweet boy who smiles, a babe of heaven. Later, he makes trouble with the neighbors. In the end, he is my creditor and my foe. These are my thoughts and feelings about children in samsara, so I renounced both the sons and daughters of samsara. At first, the money of samsara pretends to be the wish-fulfilling gem that can promise everything. Later, one cannot do without it. In the end, one is a penniless beggar. These are my thoughts and feelings about samsaric money. So I renounce both wealth and goods used for the purposes of samsara. I, Milarepa, when I think about these experiences, I cannot help but practice Dharma, the teachings of enlightenment. When I think of Dharma, the way to enlightenment, I also cannot help but offer it to others. When samsaric death approaches, I shall have no regrets. That's the succession lineage down to Milarepa. This is his conclusion about the samsara of this world. Then finally you can build something like this. There is no nirvana to attain beyond. There is no samsara here to renounce. You're talking about samsara and samsaric children and samsaric relationships and samsaric wealth. That's still in the realm of duality, isn't it? But from that standpoint of qualified non-dualism, when you realize the nature of a thing, like he's saying, at the time of death, he has a chance to realize the nature of mind, doesn't he? So that's why I say, the nature of mind, what was it? Original mind was non-dual, But this dualistic mind, there's also a nature of that mind, and it keeps leading me back into samsara again and again, lifetime after lifetime. From the cradle to the grave, I find myself forgetful of everything I learned in my previous lifetime. Or when I surprise myself, gee, I knew that. Isn't that everyone's mantra once in a while? Somebody says something to someone, says, I knew that. How did you know that? It's a part of your ingrained intelligence from previous memories in a different lifetime. We don't have a word for it in English. You have to go to Sanskrit. Samskara. Make sure you make a distinction between samsara and samskara. But you can also make a connection between the two, because your samskaras, if they're negative or mixed, are leading you into samsara. So don't pardon the Freudian slip. All right. I meant what I said. Samskaras and samsara have a very long-lasting relationship with one another. So in this way, you want to burn out all seeds. Patanjali calls about seedless samadhi and seeded samadhi. Well, welcome to both of them, as far as I'm concerned. Seeded samadhi means the samadhi of bliss, samadhi of wisdom. Those are fine with me. But unseeded samadhi is rare. The samadhi that burns all the generative power for future births in those samskaras in your mind. Where is that wisdom, that non-dual wisdom that will burn that away so that I will never come back in ignorance again? If I do come back at all, it'll be in realization of my true nature. The way the Buddhas do, the way the avatars do, the way Swami Vivekananda did in present times, the way Ramayana Maharshi did. Great souls like that. So I am pecking away at certain parts of this chart because we went through the whole thing last time. And I'm just bringing out elements to show you the Tantric stream that's running through India, and it's flowing into the West now. Vivekananda said, sun rises in the East, but it sets in the West. So these great teachings, and you have to include Christ in them, they're all from the East. But everything is coming in our direction, isn't it? It's flowing. So at that sunset, when we either go to sleep, have our dinner and go to sleep, or we pass from the body, that sunset, we must be aware of the next cycle that's coming. We must be fully aware of the condition of our mind. If I am to take another lifetime, then I'm going to take it in full consciousness. If I can't take it in full consciousness, then I want to be born to dharmic parents. Wish number 2. Here's my list, God. You see, my wish list for after death. Never to be born again. That might be the best. Because this is birth, growth, disease, old age, decay, and death. Lust, anger, greed, envy, jealousy, pride, fear, blah, 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 blah. How much fun can the world be? And those are haunting me. Brooding, fear, depression, obsessions, attachments, addictions. What about the addiction of life force? Why am I coming back into the body? Because I'm addicted to prana. The prana gives me my desire for cocaine, or my desire for morphine, or my desire for any other intoxicant. It's the prana that gives me that. If I didn't have the prana, I wouldn't even be moving, see. So what's causing me to move into the fetus and take birth after birth, that's the greatest addiction at all. So Vivekananda tells us in a poem, this thirst for life forever quench. It drags from birth to death, and death to birth the soul. They conquer all who conquer self. Know that, and never yield. Say Om Tat Sat Om. So, highest on the wish list of the illumined soul, may I never be born again. Holy Mother, Sri Sharda Devi, the most compassionate, humble, beautiful, enlightened woman of present times, the incarnation of Kali, Durga, Saraswati, and Lakshmi, according to Sri Ramakrishna in this time, has said, birth is very painful, death is very painful. May you never have to experience them again. That's highest on our wish list, you see. Next would be a purely conscious life, where I'm born in full knowledge of my true self, and I can help others. For the Bodhisattva, maybe you'd switch those two around. I can enjoy bliss later, I want to help others now. So we tend to admire those kinds of souls. But third on the list, wish list, don't forget, may I have dharmic parents who teach me this. And again, don't look at me because I didn't have any children in this lifetime. Quite often, yogis don't have children. If you're gonna, Krishna says in the Gita, born to moral and ethical people, that's the first tier. Then in the next lifetime, they're born to Rishis, knowers of truth, aspirants. And then the next lifetime, they could be born to yogis and yoginis. Oops, one problem there. Quite often they're not having children. So a birth like that is very rare to attain in this earth, Arjuna, he says. So give me those dharmic parents. Let's play this all forward, folks. You need to be born dharmically, so if you have children, you can teach them this. Because that's why souls aren't being born in the West, in America particularly, with any great realization. Because their parents are not teaching them. What are they teaching them? Be success in the world. Be a success in this empty world. See? Seek money. You'll be happy and you'll make me happy in my old age. It's all selfishness. It's all the words of a poisoned lover. Fake love. We looked at the 4 kinds of love 2 classes ago, remember? Samanjasa, ekangi, the duck loves the water, but the water doesn't love the duck kind of love. We already looked at that. It's a tantric teaching. Who is it that loves you here on this earth? Your parents? Your teacher loves you. Because he's telling you the truth to get you free of birth, life, and death. He'll even be there at your bedside if you want him to be, so he can guide you. If you can't make the Buddha light, and he'll try and help you do that, then there's always those Shambhala worlds, you see. There's always these worlds of higher existence. If you shift to the Kundalini system, then you'd say Hridaya Chakra, Agya Chakra, Vishuddha Chakra, Agya Chakra, and Sahasrara Chakra. Here's the heart, 3 above, 3 below, the poem says. See? You must arrive at the heart, because there in the heart, where all the many hundreds and thousands of nerve endings meet, abides the Atman. Meditate on that Atman as Om, the word, and Godspeed to you in crossing over to the farthest shore beyond darkness. Tamasaha parastat, tamas is darkness. So, if you are striving for a higher realization via the Kundalini system, which starts with purifying your food, and then taking the energy you get from food, mukhya prana, up the spine gradually by prayer, by mantra, and by spiritual exercises like meditation, worship, and so forth. And it comes up, and then it turns into ojas, and it penetrates this barrier here. Let me show you this chart for a second in an overlay. Lokas are worlds. Nadis are those nerve endings that are flowing through worlds. Subtle nerve endings. You have to think beyond the gross body into the subtle body, because you passed into dream state tonight through some of these nerves, these channels. With your prana took you there. If you have controlled the prana, then you can go there consciously. That is, you control your dragon bird, right? All those movies lately, what are they really saying? Those nice, those animated cartoons that they're spending billions of dollars on while people starve outside the movie studio. What are they all saying? Tame your dragon bird. Garuda is the original dragon bird. Vishnu rides Garuda. And Garuda takes Vishnu to all the different worlds. Just read the scriptures. I mentioned the non-dual scriptures at the beginning of this class, but there are some very beautiful qualified non-dual and dualistic scriptures in India. The Ramayana, the Mahabharata, out of which the Gita was drawn. They found the Gita in the Mahabharata. It was one of its chapters. Beautiful, beautiful scriptures in which the mind of the seer comes down a ways from this highest chakra to these lower chakras so they can tell you tales and stories about kings and queens and beggars and wandering holy people and how they got together and how the truths were transmitted over time, over countless centuries, in lineage successions to different countries. Those are the stories worth telling, you see. It's not like, well, let's just tell you the Aesop fairy tables, the fables, you see, or cow jumped over the moon. No, they started out with some very beautiful teachings here. Vivekananda was raised on them. He said his mother read him all the stories from the Itihasa when he was a child. That's how the Indian child was raised, you see, by a dharmic parent. Make sure you know how these great seers came amongst the royalty, amongst the merchants, amongst the poor people, amongst the untouchables, like Gandhi did in this day and age. See, and how they informed him of the highest truth. Oh, you're not a Chandala. See, you're not an untouchable. You're the Atman. Who's convinced you of this lamentable condition you've fallen into? If you go to India, amongst the traditionalists, you'll be called a Malecha, a Westerner. They won't let you in some of the temples. Oh, you see, you're defiled. You're a mango that got pecked by a crow. You can't offer a mango pecked by a crow in a puja. See? Purify yourself. Starts with this body. Purify the body, then you can go amongst holy people. Otherwise, cows drive horses away from the herd. Worldly drive us away. They crucify us. They ostracize us. Shouldn't it be the other way around too? Can't strew pearls before swine. When you want to know the truth to set you free, then you'll have to qualify yourself. Come with open ears, open heart. So when this open heart happens, you see, in this chakra, there's a barrier here. So here is basically the 7 chakra system. At the base of the spine, at the genitals, at the gut, or stomach, at the heart, at the throat, at the third eye, and at the crown. Here are the 7 worlds that spread out. Bhurloka, Bhuvarloka, Svarloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Taparloka, and Brahmaloka. Over here is Maya, represented by this diagram here. Myriads of souls wandering in ignorance. Notice all the nerve endings moving there, see, out of the chakras and so forth. Here is three divisions. The Brahma Granthi, Granthi means knot, Vishnu Granthi, and Rudra Granthi. These are gross knot, subtle knot, causal knot, if you want to say that. Souls trying to get beyond the animalistic condition. You might have noticed there are many human beings who are very animalistic. It's not actually all that uncommon today to see very animalistic people, just as thick as a brick, with the consciousness of a dead bush. You see. There's no awakening whatsoever. Some of them are actually very, very intellectually bright, but they're still as dumb as a stone when it comes to the real truth. That's the strangeness of Maya. So if this Brahma Granthi holds them at a lower condition, in an animalistic condition, you know the Tantric teaching, Pasu. There are 3 types of beings, O student. Pasu, animalistic. Virya, heroic. Daiva, divine. Which are you? Can you rise to the heroic condition? That means you're going to start living a dharmic life. You're going to keep up your meditations. You're going to study the scriptures. You're going to teach your children well, not just in a hippie song, but actually follow through and do it. You don't end up singing your songs in a gambling casino when you're 50. out of the hippies when you were in your 20s, you see. You actually follow through and teach your children well. That is, have children and teach them. And know that children don't belong to you. No attachment, right? The children of samsara is not what you want. They'll be your creditor and your foe when you get older. Actually, this last month I have 2 people writing to me about that, about their sons forsaking them, just going for their money. It happens all the time. Somebody said the other day, oh, my mother's passing away, and I'm worried about my siblings because they're all coming and taking her stuff. They're all coming and taking her stuff. See? So there's Maya in that person, and there's Maya in the siblings. But the person who's passing away, you see, maybe she has an opportunity, you see, to actually find her way to a higher birth. And when she does find her way to a higher birth, she's going to be transcending this Brahma Granthi, this very gross knot, and working her way up to the realm of the ancestors. Problem with the ancestor realm is this Manipura chakra right there, right? So in and out go the souls from that center, right? You know what I'm saying here, right? Not just in this sense, but in the actual sense. The fetus is here, isn't it? Digesting of food is here, isn't it? This is a very primal center. And there's a barrier right there, just below it, the Vishnu Granthi. Souls cannot get up through it. They come and they bounce back, they pounce back. That's called samsara. You take births again in the realm of the insects, animals, human beings, and so forth, and lower births, see, by revolving around these 3 chakras all the time. And the ancestors are just waiting for you to come. Come to me. Worship me, worship me. You don't think Japan isn't worshipping their ancestors forever? And that's why Japanese are being born as more Japanese? You think a camel eats thorny bushes until its gums bleed, and then when it dies it wants to come back as a camel again so it can taste thorny bushes again? And that's why there's so many camels born? Is there an explanation for it, pure and simple? Why nature pumps out horses and cows and animals and camels and albatrosses hanging around people's neck. So penetrate through the Vishnu Granthi and get to this heart chakra. In a nutshell, that's what we want to teach in Tantra, in Kundalini Yoga system. I want you to know about the nadis and how they flow through different worlds, kingdoms of heaven within, if you want to call them that, and how souls transmigrate. And then all these problems of relativity will be solved for you. You'll have a system that you can rely on. If you don't know the intricate dynamics of it, never mind. Just know that that's basically what's happening, and when you get into that condition of passing from your body, you'll have some sort of a template, you see, inside of you. You'll be able to see your way clear, penetrate through. See, he's back here, he's having a problem, isn't he, penetrating through, because he's getting weak, he's getting foggy perception, he's got dryness of mouth and eyes, he's got dreamlike experiences, he's losing his warmth, his consciousness is becoming unstable, his exhalation is happening but he's not inhaling anymore, and that's cause for panic. Pretty soon it's just one long out breath and that's it. He's out of the body. He's cut the silver thread. And now he's as if floating, you see. But he begins to see a steady light. Then colors appear, and he sees deities, some of them wrathful, some of them benign. When you go to the museum and you see the old tankas from Nepal and Bhutan and Tibet, you've probably been there, seen the beautiful tankas with all the Buddha fields, and some of the deities are wrathful, you see. You face those off. The devotee of our tradition welcomes the negativities. They're the challenge. They're the purifiers. I mean, if my teacher has told me I'm the Atman and that's it, and there's no other reality, then all these dreams inside are just that. It doesn't matter whether the most wrathful, horrible-looking demon comes at me in death, or whether the most benign sage comes at me and shines light on me. They're both illusions. and I am the reality. What do you say at the end of your email?
We're the ones we've been waiting for.
We are the ones we have been waiting for. It's the greatest game of cosmic tag ever. You're it. The hand has been placed on your head. Now awaken. Awaken. You must. You must. Time is passing. Do not get dragged back to sleep again. Rabindranath Tagore and other songs. Don't fall back to sleep, he sings. See? Don't fall back to sleep. Wake up and stay awake. So all of these things are happening to him, but if he waits them out, and if he's trained, he will begin to see higher realms. He'll begin to course along subtler nadis. He might penetrate through the realm of his ancestors, Svarloka, the higher heaven that people are all crowing about. So, I want to go to heaven, I want to go to heaven, where streets are paved with gold and running with milk and honey. Sounds like a sticky mess to me. I want to go there. I don't want a post-mortem emancipation. I want to realize that my freedom is here and now. End of story. So I will penetrate that Vishnu Granthi and I will go to the heart chakra. And all of these other sidetracks then are just all in love. They're all dreams of love. So they're dreams of devotion. They're dreams of faith. I've found my way through the barrier. I've gone beyond to the farthest shore beyond darkness. This is darkness. Everything right here down, including heaven, is darkness. It's a dream. But when you penetrate into the heart chakra, you're dancing in ecstasy in the light of the Lord. And there's no more rebirth for you in the womb of matter. It's a line from a song. No more birth in the womb of matter for me. Only emanation from my divine mother. So here's where mother is, you see. And she's guiding her children ever upward, ever inward. Inward ascension, we used to call it, to these deeper, deeper levels of realization, to pure consciousness, to timeless, deathless awareness. And anywhere from there is just all frosting on the cake, you see. Ramakrishna didn't stop there. He went on. He described it in his own ascension. Every time I came to a lotus, I licked it with my tongue, and it bloomed. He's the initiator. See, if any chakra has fallen asleep inside of me, then I have to go there, and I have to put my attention on it and make it blossom again, just like you would water a flagging flower in your garden, and the next day it's all blooming again. You see, you have to water it with the tears of your own devotion, with the perspiration of your own sadhana, with the wisdom streams, water from the wisdom streams of Tantra and Vedanta and Yoga and Samkhya. Water, take that water and pour it on these chakras and waken them up. Right on up to the third eye where vision happens. Or here at the Vishuddha where you don't want to say anything but truth. No more low-grade mantras for me. Only truth emanating from my Divine Mother. Basically, I'm not going to say how's the weather to you from here. I'd have to come down, you see, to where the physical earth and clouds and so forth. You talk about the expression right as rain. Well, I have another form of rain to introduce to you. It's called Dharma Mega Samadhi. It's the rain of Dharma. It's the rain of higher attributes, higher qualities that are within you right now. You don't have to go looking for them anywhere, and you can't find them out there anyway. They're within you. They originated in you. They're something you build over time. They originated in the innate perfection that the human being is. That's called Atman, or Buddha nature, or soul with a capital S, not a soul with a small s that goes from heaven to earth to hell. Let's be done with that. Enough dreams of heaven, earth, and hell. Let's penetrate all dreams and go to this. And hopefully, if we get to the Rudra Granthi here, as you remember the story where Sri Ramakrishna was taking teachings from Totapari in the Gospel of Ramakrishna, a spiritual book everyone should read, that Totapari said, trying to get him beyond the vision of Kali, which was here. See? No, I love my mother Kali. I love my mother Kali. I see only Kali. Tatapari looked for a piece of glass, picked it up on the ground, stuck it into Ramakrishna's third eye and said, concentrate here. And everything blew apart. Every form blew apart. And Ramakrishna said, he had the Advaitic realization. I and my Father are one. He had Nirvikalpa Samadhi, a Sampragyata Samadhi. And he was in it for 2 or 3 days while Tatapari tried to keep his body alive, feeding him milk and so forth. Tatapari had practiced 40 years to get that experience. It took Ramakrishna a few days. It was set up. See, that's why he's the Kali avatar. This is Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. That's why he came back to show us, in view of hundreds and thousands of people in contemporary times, that we should be having samadhi. It's ours. We've become far distant from it, right? Other saints and seers have come and said, oh, samadhi is so hard to get, you'll never get it. You got your karmas. Vivekananda came and said, blast your karmas. Even Shankara in 750 AD said, practice having samadhi. He said it in the Vivekachudamani, one of the non-dual scriptures. You should practice having samadhi every day. Vivekananda came and said, you should practice dying every day till you get over this fear of it. See, now thinking, I'm not the 5 elements, I'm not the body, I've now dropped my body, but my consciousness is still there. How wonderful. You see, I'm not a body, I'm actually consciousness. I'm the witness of everything. I'm not my senses now. And I go deeper inside and I'm not my dream senses. And I go deeper inside of that and I find where formlessness disappears. Form disappears and formlessness takes over. And from then on I'm in a state of higher consciousness. And I'm in there in an awake, conscious way, not in a dreaming way where I give myself to sleep and don't know what happens to me between these bardos, you see, the bardo of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. I'm not sure what's happening to me there. I don't know. I can't fill in the gaps. Or maybe I wake up the next day and think, oh, I remember a dream I had. But you don't remember the dreams that came before it and the dreams that came after it. The cycle. See what's going on. Your constant penchant to dream. Because if you could get a hold of that and squelch it, then you could finally see the light behind that doesn't dream. And then you'd know what the great Rishis are saying in the Upanishads when they say, from dreams awake, from bonds be free. Know the truth. Thou art he, thou art she. From dreams awake, from bonds be free. You'd stop dreaming and you'd enter into the loka of divine reality. See, the loka. The kingdom of heaven within you. One of the higher chambers in your Father's mansion. And from there you would learn all the lessons. Samsara would be a thing far gone. See, you would hardly remember it, just like you don't remember what your kindergarten was when you were in that bardo. See, kindergarten was one bardo, grade school was another bardo, high school was another bardo. They all went by. How much of it did I remember? How much of it was really important? That is the dream important or is the dreamer important? If I wake up to being the dreamer, which is attained by saying, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Then the dream doesn't make it makes no never mind. See? And all the dreams of the past I dreamed, called past lifetimes, are also immaterial. I've now come to my senses in a very real way. So, as we traverse these worlds, you see, the Maharloka, Janaloka, Taparloka, and Brahmaloka, the Lord Indra, there's a picture of Indra there, the god of gods. You get into the realm of the deities, which I was talking about earlier, which you need to connect to the mantras, which you need to connect back to the Father. You get to the Father through the Son. So Indra is there. Then here's an austere meditator. Janaloka, Taparloka, there's the 7 Rishis, 3 of the 7 Rishis. The Sapta Rishi. Sapta Rishi Mandileke Jnana Yogi Rishivar. It's a song they wrote about Sri Ramakrishna. Sapta Loka. He came out of the realm of the 7 Rishis. That's Swami Vivekananda. Brahmaloka, there is Brahma right there. See, so these are all very deep, powerful words where forms are very blissful. And if one transcends them, one hits against the Rudra Granthi, says the Yoga Kundalini Upanishad, and then one can transcend. You see. Look at some of these beautiful quotes up here. I got out of the Upanishads and Tantras. He says, within the recess of the heart is the akasha of consciousness with its many openings, shaped like the calyx of a lotus, in which all the universes exist. How about the next one? The individual soul is as subtle as a hair point, divided and subdivided hundreds of times. Does that sound like a bunch of network of nerves? Take a hair point, divide it hundreds of times, you see. And then use it as a metaphor for all of these nadis inside of the marvelous human form. What about this beautiful one? Go, bathe at the most sacred confluence of holy rivers found within the precious human body, where the three spiritual nerve channels meet. There's one of them right there, Sushumna, going right up the middle. Here's the other one going around it, you can see. The Ida. Here's the other one, the Pingala. See, going around this way. So straight up, and two of them wrapping around, vibrating in like this, you see, all the way up it. Those are the three great rivers, the three holy rivers. Sushumna, Ida, and Pingala. Sometimes I call them the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria for Westerners. Because we're taking this inner journey, right? We're taking this beautiful inner journey. It's called the adventure of consciousness, not the adventure of elements and oceans and mountain climbing and so on. It's the adventure of consciousness. There are new seas, new oceans to see, like the ocean of bliss, Ananda Sagara, the ocean of consciousness, Chaitanya Sagara, the ocean of sorrowless light. Ananda Jyotishmata, that's how the father of yoga called it, the ocean of sorrowless light. Patanjali said that. So, and there are other mountains to climb too. Enough of Vulture Peak and Sermon on the Mount and Moses on the Mount and Muhammad on the Mount. We've got new mountains to climb. Those are all metaphors outside for what is inside of us. Because from the inside, the outside has come. Everything has proceeded from within us. All knowledge lies within us. All power lies within us. No God or devil exists there. I and my Father are one. Can you call anything a God or a devil from that state of realization? Oneness doesn't have to it. It's not two-ness. Reality is not two-ness. There is no worshipper or worshipped. There is no God and follower, God and devotee. And that's the state where the Sahasrara Chakra, 1,000-petaled lotus, we call it. So some things to think about while we take our 10 or 15 minute break. The live streaming audience can look at this chart close up as we do, and we'll come back and look at some more of the Vedantic and Tantric streams of teaching that all of you have gathered here to hear. Very nice turnout. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in 15 minutes.
you.